Volume 9, A God's Message. The air froze around Zula. Suthar could feel the world's gravity increase as she spoke. Suthar's breathing grew heavy and his bones cracked, not from exhaustion but from the extreme pressure. Zula's eyes glowed brighter than the fire in front of them. Maldrak grows hungrier by the day. Find him, stop him. Her voice echoed in the abyss. She was calm, yet her voice held immense authority. The abyss split. Suthar was sucked back into the real world. He abruptly woke up in a sleeping bag made of leaves and sticks. He was covered in sweat, his arms were shaking, and the smell of a fire still burned in his nose. He tried to move but couldn't. His legs won't move. Suthar removed the leaf blanket only to find Blue lying on his leg. Suthar didn't know what to do. He had never dealt with anything like this. Kaelia stepped into the tent. She knew what the situation was, but couldn't help but tease him. "I didn't know you were the cuddle type," she said with a smirk. "I'm disappointed in your lack of maturity," Suthar replied while shooting her a death glare. Kaelia yelps from the death glare. She hurriedly lifted Blue off his leg. Once Suthar moved, she put Blue back down. With Blue still sleeping, they couldn't keep going. The two girls, Kaelia and Yellow, took this time to bathe in the river. Meanwhile, Suthar took Red and Orange aside. Orange touched the ground, causing it to shoot up to make a furnace and a slab for an anvil. Red flicked his fingers, summoning a blaze of fire. Suthar placed his hand on a nearby tree. He raised his hand in the air. With one clean movement, the tree was sliced into pieces. Then he carved a piece into a hammer. Orange stomped, and a block of raw iron shot out of the ground. With a grunt, he and Red tossed it into the fire. As it heated, it let out a hissing sound, glowing slowly from dull red to blinding orange. Suthar formed his aura into a pair of tongs, grabbed it out of the fire, and set it on the stone anvil. Suthar called over Alucard. He handed him the hammer and pointed at the smoldering iron. Clang, clang, clang. With each strike, the iron's shape changed. Red and Orange watched in awe. Kaelia and Yellow walked up from behind. "What are you doing?" Kaelia asked. Suthar paid her no mind, only focusing on the sword taking shape. He nodded at Orange. Orange closed his eyes, making his aura flow through the world. When he opened his eyes, a clay basin of water appeared in front of Suthar. He plunged the glowing blade into it. Steam exploded into the air with a shriek, and the forest seemed to remember the sound of burning iron. Suthar pulled the sword out. Its appearance had changed. It was now dark and solid, deadly and beautiful like a poisonous butterfly. "It needs tempering," he said while lying across the stone anvil. The blade began to cool. Suthar grabbed a different chunk of wood and shaped it into a hilt by hand. "Stick out your hand," Suthar said, looking at Red. "Is that comfortable?" Red nodded. Suthar took the hilt back and wrapped it in the leather of last night's dinner. Kaelia asked again what they were doing. This time he replied, "Making a weapon for Red." Kaelia nodded in confusion. She tried to speak but was cut off by Suthar. "Do you know how to enchant a weapon?" he asked. Kaelia took a while to respond. "I've read about the process, not that you know anything about reading," she said. Suthar just stared, then raised the blade to her face. "Enchant," Suthar said bluntly. Kaelia reached into her pocket dimension and pulled out a book, Enchanting 101. She opened the book and started to look for a page. "If Red is good with fire, then he needs a fire enchantment," she whispered to herself. Suthar heard this and added, "This better not explode." When she found the page, she walked to the sword and read an enchantment. The first 4 tries failed. Causing Red to start praying, she doesn't kill them all. Finally, on her 5th try, she got it. Thurnak Vihal Zarnaker Vrek Ulmarn, Vihaldras Surth Kaler, Vrak Sul Vranth Ul Nerek Dal. A bright red aura gathered around the sword. After a few seconds, the sword had developed engravings. Suthar handed Red the sword and pointed at a tree. Red walked closer to it. With the skill of an amateur, Red swung the sword, causing a huge burst of flames to ravage it. Not only did he cut the tree, but he also burned it. Red turned to look at Suthar, wanting to be acknowledged. Suthar patted him on the head, feeling like a proud older brother. Suthar took a knee, meeting him at eye level. "This sword will help to carve your way into a better world. Because of this, you should name it." Red looked down at the sword in his hands, then back at Suthar. "I'll call it Crimveal." The sword started to float in the air. Ash began to gather around it. At the base of the sword, just above the pommel, the word Crimveal appeared. "I'm a little worried about Monsieur," Kaelia said while looking at her tent. A face of confusion washed over Suthar. "You mean Blue." "Uilla and I gave her a name while we were taking a bath," Kaelia responded in a snobby tone. Is Eula Yellow's new name? Suthar questioned. Hey, why do they get names and not us? Red said angrily. Kaelia looked offended because they thought she had forgotten about them. We gave you names, too. Red will be Ali and Orange will be Domhin. Ali and Damam looked at each other with pride. I suppose that will do, Damam said in a tone more prideful than a lion. Monsieur sleepily walked up behind Kaelia and grabbed Kaelia's leg, causing her to scream and jump into Suthar's arms. He dodged. Kaelia lifted her head out of the dirt. She turned to look at Monsieur. Monsieur rubbed her eyes. Mr. Suthar, I'm hungry, she whined. Suthar looked at the forest surrounding them. Ali, go test Crimville out on that boar over there, Suthar said, pointing into the forest. Ali's eyes and sword lit up with determination. He started to run as fast as he could towards the boar. With one slash, he not only killed the boar, but also half the trees in the forest. He turned back to Suthar. I did it, he yelled. Suthar walked up to him and grabbed Crimville. Let's use sticks until you know how to use a sword, Suthar said while forcefully smiling. When Suthar and Ali finally caught a boar without destroying it, night had fallen. The quadruplets sit eagerly by the fire. The smell of roasted boar filled the air, while Suthar and Alucard are back sitting under the tree with cups of flower resin beer. Suthar began nodding off to sleep. When he woke, he was back in the void. The fire and Zula were gone, replaced by a small flower that flowed with faith. As time passed, the flower only got dimmer and dimmer. The faith it flowed with was soon replaced with greed. Greed not for money, but for power. The void slowly got darker. Eventually, he could no longer see. Before he even realized it, he stood in front of a huge ancient stone structure tucked away by time. It has massive black stone walls and carvings that span up and down the walls. Zula appeared from behind. If peace is what you want, then help me get what I seek. She said her voice was even colder and more impatient. With a flick of her wrist, a map appeared in the air. She pointed to the easternmost part. Go here! Suthar wanted to ask more questions, but she was already gone.